Welcome back to the Anfield Exchange, and today we're taking a look at how Arne Slot won the league title for Liverpool, the 20th league title in the history. And yeah, we're going to take a look at how he differs from Jurgen Klopp. It's been a seamless transition. There are a lot of similarities, but there are some differences that we're going to pick up on today. Firstly, I want to look at the tactical, what he's done tactically that differs from Jurgen Klopp. And I want to say this. I think Arne Slot, tactically, is a much better manager than Jurgen Klopp. There were a few, and I'm not one to diss Klopp, but there were a few occasions under Klopp where you saw him make substitutions and you thought, I don't really understand that. I think Jurgen Klopp's man management was what made Liverpool what they are, and I think now we're now looking at a tactically astute manager in Arne Slot. So the first thing he's done is, I'm going to start from the back. So what Liverpool do really, really well, and I think it was probably more evident in the beginning of the season. I think teams have possibly started to pick up on it now. They invite the press from the opposition. So numerous occasions you'll see Van Dijk, you'll see Canate, and they'll hold the ball and they'll wait there until someone presses them. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to feed them balls into the midfield and pass through the lines. We never really saw that under Klopp. It's more of an Arne Slot thing. If the front four, if the strikers of the opposition are pressing, then the midfield are pushing up and the defenders are pushing up. It creates space in behind the defence, and if we can get them passing lines, cut the passing lines, then it gives us the opportunity to get in behind the defence. So I think that's the first of two major changes Arne Slot's made for Liverpool. The second one I think is a double pivot. So again, because we're playing that way where we're trying to cut the passing lines and play through the press, having a double pivot there makes that easier for us. And then what you see, you have obviously Robbo coming up the wing and Trent cutting inside. So then when we find those holding midfielders, when we find the double pivot, it's 9 times out of 10, it's a first time ball or a second time ball to a Trent, to a Robertson, which allows us all to push up forward as a team. So I think those are the two main changes that Arne Slot's made. And it's made us look a lot more solid as a team. Probably a little bit less exciting, but we're definitely more solid as a team now. The last sort of change I want to talk about is Mo Salah. So, look, we all know what Mo Salah does. We all know he scores goals and he gets assists. But I think what Arne Slot has done and what he's done very well is he's built this team around Salah's strengths. So he's effectively asked Mo Salah to stop defending, basically, because he hasn't got the legs to do it. He's more dangerous in those attacking positions. And what he's done to counter that is he's got Trent Alexander-Arnold closer to Mo Salah, and he's got Szoboszlai basically doing the running that Mo Salah would be doing. So the amount of times you've seen this season where Szoboszlai tracks back into the right back position to help out Canate when Trent's forward, it's that side of a pitch. And I think this is why we've seen reluctance to play Harvey Elliott, is because Harvey Elliott hasn't got the pace to do Salah's running. And obviously when Trent goes forward, then we have a lot of space in behind him. And if Elliott's on the pitch, it's hard for him to get back and help out Canate. So I think that's why we've seen Dominic Szoboszlai be the mainstay this year. And it's worked well. We've just won the Premier League. But I think that's something we can potentially look at. Now, I know there's a lot of talk about the summer transfer window and possibly bringing in a more creative midfielder. Now, it's a tricky one because if we do that, but we lose the work rate of Szoboszlai, then we'll start to find spaces. We'll open up on that side of the pitch because of Salah and what we're offering Salah. So because of his lack of tracking back without a Szoboszlai, we're going to probably concede more goals from that side of the pitch. But obviously, going forward, there's pros and cons to everything you do, and the move he's made to get Salah incorporated and playing to his strengths, we've seen that in the numbers Salah's put up this year. But equally, there's a con of defending. and majority of our goals that we've conceded this season have come from that right hand side. And yeah, that's potentially something that could be looked at. The next thing I want to look at is team spirit. So Arne Slot has instilled a great team spirit there. He's had a very data-driven approach. We've seen that in his press conferences where he's fired out statistics off the top of his head when somebody's asked him a question about it. I think in his most recent one, he spoke about set pieces, which we'll go on to a little bit later. So he spoke about set pieces and said that, yes, we have conceded a certain amount, but it's a lower percentage of the overall goals we've conceded. It's clear to see he runs with a data-driven approach, and I think that's seen improvements in players. If you look at the players like obviously Salah, nobody would have imagined there was space for Salah to improve this year. He's done that. He's had the best season he's ever had. He's had the best season of anybody in Premier League history. You see what Gravenberch is doing this year. Nobody again expected that. Cody Gakpo has improved massively. He looks like a superstar, and we weren't seeing that under Jurgen Klopp yet. So Jurgen Klopp used to play him as a number 9 quite often, and that potentially isn't his best position. Arne Slot's put him on that left. He's usually Luis Diaz in the 9, and I think we're seeing the improvement in the results from what Gakpo's done for us this season. And then another thing that he's done, Arne Slot, to build the team spirit is, and I think this is brilliant, and we saw it in the game against Tottenham. He's acknowledged what Jurgen Klopp did for Liverpool, and he's acknowledged and appreciated the state that Jurgen Klopp left the team and the team culture that Jurgen Klopp built. So he's been working on those foundations that have been left in place, and he's done a very good job at it. Yeah, I mean, we can't fault him. It can't be easy to come in and follow somebody like Jurgen Klopp who had the history that he did at Liverpool. He's a legend. He'll never be forgotten. But Arne Slot has done what I would describe as pretty much the perfect job. I don't think any of us could have dreamed him coming in and taking the reins so seamlessly and carrying on where Jurgen Klopp left off. Normally when a manager comes into a club, they want to change things, they want to put their stamp on it. Arne Slot's looked at it and he said, no, I'm going to give these guys a chance. I'm going to let them prove to me that they're good enough. I'm not going to just go out there and splash a cash, which I think since he came in, we've spent 10 million on Chiesa. And I think at the time I would have been frustrated with it, but I think it's turned out it's the right approach. He's done well, and it excites me to see where we could be next season once he's got some players in that he believes will work better with his style of football. Another thing, and this again isn't really the norm, is his squad management. Now, whether that, you can ask the question, is that because of a lack of trust in players? Is that because he hasn't got the players that he wants and they can't do the things he wants them to do? Or is it because this is just his style? But in terms of a squad management, the lack of rotation, which sounds negative, I'm gonna spin it positively. It's a focus on stability, and we've seen that throughout the season. I mean, most football managers rotate teams this year, and I've been screaming out for, certainly the Southampton game, when he put most of his first team players in, I was screaming out for rotation because we looked like we were getting a little bit leggy. But again, he's won us a league with this team, with a very small team of players who he obviously trusts. That's the pro to it. We've won the league. The cons are you're going to get tired towards the end of the season. I do think we've seen that recently. I think the fans probably pulled the players through the game on Sunday against Tottenham. But yeah, I think he's now built that stable spine of a team that he knows these are the guys I can trust. These are the guys that I can't trust. I would imagine some of those players will leave, and he's going to bring in players that he believes he can trust. But another sort of aspect of his squad management is utilising subs efficiently. I want to and this does touch on tactically. I want to go right the way back to the first game we played against Ipswich, and Gerald Quansah was taken off at half time. He brought Canate on, and the reason he gave was he wasn't winning enough duels in the area against Liam Delap. That was his first game, first competitive game for Liverpool, and that takes balls. That takes some balls, that does, to just do what you want to do, and to make a centre-back substitution. I think it was 0-0 at the time. To make a substitution like that at centre-back, a like-for-like replacement for a young lad. Yes, it's not nice to see Gerald Quansah be dragged off at half-time, but ultimately he brings Canate on, and we end up winning the game 2-0. Another example of that would be Nottingham Forest away, where we were 1-0 down, and he brings on Tsimikas and Jota, and again, Tsimikas goes over, takes a corner kick within 20 seconds. Jota's put it in the back of the net. 1-1. We got a valuable draw there. So he has an eye for what needs to be done, and he's not afraid to make those changes. And that sort of leads on to my next section, which is the adaptability of Arne Slot. So these tweaks that he does, they just seem to come off, and he really analyses the game and has a feel for what needs to be done. I remember the first time I listened to Arne Slot talking about the game was when we played Man United, and we won 3-0, and he was talking about the changes he'd made, not in terms of personnel, but in terms of how it's referring to Szoboszlai, how he wanted Szoboszlai to play. And he mentions that he knows that when Casemiro's under pressure, he can make mistakes. So I think what he was, if I remember correctly, he wanted Szoboszlai to be more towards the left as opposed to the right, or vice versa, to put that press onto Casemiro, make him make mistakes, knowing that the fullbacks like to go forward. Salah and Gakpo would have the open space behind, and ultimately that's how our first 2 goals came. And it was, I sat there watching him, mesmerised, thinking, this guy is a master tactician, and we've seen it all season. Some of the things he does and some of the things he says, I sit back and I think, wow, I would have never put that and that together, and Arne Slot obviously does that. He obviously has a deep analysis of opponents, and that's what enables him to tweak it, because you get a feeling he goes into every game understanding how a team will play and how to beat that team. And I think the fact that we've won so many games this year shows how much analysis he puts into his opponents, which I think is brilliant. I think when you've got a manager like that, no matter who you sign or who you let go, I think you're always going to have a fighting chance. Like I say, I mean, obviously we touched on the strengths of Salah, utilising players' strengths, and yeah, I mean that's shown in the season that Salah's had. He's had his best season, even better than any season he had under Jurgen Klopp, even his debut season, and it's just been fantastic. Also, what I like about Slot, he's not afraid to experiment. So there was a cup game we played against Southampton, but this comes back to the analysis and the data-driven approach that he has. So when we played Southampton, and we knew we were going to have a lot of the ball, we knew that Southampton were going to be, I don't want to say tough to break down. They made a lot of mistakes at the back. And what he did is, on paper, you had Endo starting at centre-back, but within the first 5 minutes, you could see Endo's job was not to be a centre-back. He drifted into midfield to give him the extra body in midfield to allow the wing-backs to get forward. And it was like a hybrid role of centre-back, centre-midfield, and it worked perfectly. We won that game as well. I like that he's always looking to improve. He's always looking to find the minute details to get you over the line. You get the feeling from Arne Slot that he lives and breathes football, and that for me is that's good enough for me. I absolutely adore the guy. In terms of set pieces, I touched upon in the press conference. I think it was a Tottenham one or it was a West Ham one. I think this refers to Arne Slot's style of play, which is a lot more of a controlled possession style as opposed to a counter-attack. So Arne Slot's Liverpool this season has scored 6 goals from corners, which, like I say, is from a controlled sort of environment. We don't get as many corners, whereas Jurgen Klopp's team last year scored 14 goals from corners, and I think there's a statistic that we're not earning in as many corners as what we used to because we're happy to hold the ball in midfield. We're not trying to create 20, 30, 40 chances. We get to 2-0, we control the ball, we control the game, we control the tempo, and we see the game out. Whereas there was times under Jurgen Klopp, and again, I love Jurgen Klopp, but there were times where that was probably the right approach, but we still went for it more and more, and some of those occasions we ended up drawing, we ended up dropping points. So in terms of set pieces, I think he obviously does a lot of work on set pieces. We've conceded, I think we've only conceded 3 set pieces in the Premier League this season, so we are defensively sound, but then we haven't got men bombing forward on the counter-attack as much as we did under Klopp. So we're not conceding as many from corners, but equally we're not scoring as many because we're happy to just play the ball around. And that echoes the style of football that Arne Slot has wanted to play this year. And I believe ultimately it's made us a lot tougher to beat us. Because we're not leaving spaces, we're controlling the games, we're frustrating opponents, he can't get the ball off us. I think that's a big part of why we've won the Premier League this year, and we didn't under Jurgen Klopp last year. I think we're a lot more solid as a team, and yeah, we're controlling those games and seeing the games out that on the occasions we probably never used to. I don't think, look, take away the weekend where we won 5-1, I don't think we're ever going to see, the likes of when Liverpool beat Barcelona or when we beat Dortmund. I don't think we're going to see them style games under Arne Slot, because if we're seeing that style game, and I think we did see it once in the Newcastle game, in the cup final, where I felt he lost control of that. That's the one part this season where I feel maybe the occasion got the better of him. We ended up with about 6-7 strikers on the pitch, and it was a mess. But I don't think we're going to see any chaotic games like the way we did with Jurgen Klopp, just because of his manner and his demeanour, and even the way he presents himself in press conferences. He's controlled. He knows what he's going to say, and he doesn't veer away from that no matter how much he's pushed. And it can come across as a lack of passion sometimes, but we saw enough passion from him against Tottenham at the weekend. It's his style of management, and I think in the long term and the current term, if you will, it's brilliant for Liverpool. It's done us wonders this season, and I truly believe that Arne Slot will have a very successful career at Liverpool and win many, many trophies. Let me know what you think of the video. I'll see you on the next one.